to give priority of business for consideration. On Tuesday next week, Mr. Speaker, we will consider in the Committee of the Whole House the Health Laws Amendment Bill number 14 of 2018 and the Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendment Bill number 12 of 2018 and the second reading of the following bills. The Warehouse Receipt Systems Bill, Senate Bill number 10 of 2017, the County Government Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 11 of 2017, the Parliamentary Service Commission Bill number 6 of 2018, and the Kenya Accreditation Service Bill number 17 of 2018. Mr. Speaker, in accordance with the provisions of Standing Order 44-2A subsection 5, I wish to convey that having consulted with the chairpersons of the Education and Research Committee, Labor and Social Welfare Committee, Energy and Agriculture and Livestock, the following questions are scheduled for reply by specific Cabinet Secretaries. The first one, the Cabinet Secretary for Education will appear before the Departmental Committee on Education and Research on Tuesday, 23rd October 2018, to answer questions number 009/2018 from Honorable Peter Kaluma, question number 022 of 2018 from the Honorable Gideon Koskei.
The Public Accounts Committee of the 11th Parliament spent most of their time chasing bank accounts, I don't know what things that they were reading in papers. At the end of it all, the county governments who are supposed to get not less than 15% of national revenue as approved by the audited accounts of national revenue, as approved by the National Assembly, the latest, continue now to rely on the revenues of 2012-2013 or 2013-2014, because the committee chaired by the Honorable Wandai, up to now, is still, we still see them excited about small things. Every now and then, the Auditor General's reports are being tabled here. But what are they doing? They are dealing with the 2014-2015. Those, when they bring the report, that's what will be the basis of the revenue allocation to the counties. So indeed, they are the ones who are stifling. You are the ones who are stifling county governments. You need to have, and very soon we are going to propose a motion to compel that committee to consider the accounts of 2014, 2015, 2015, 2016, 2017, concurrently. Because you're informing who. Now you are a young man, you should just relax. You don't even seem to know what you are. You see, inform the point. You see, this is the problem. Read the standing orders so that you can understand when you can make interjections. It is an unfair situation which must not be allowed to continue. This House has a responsibility to ensure that the county governments get the fair share of revenues based on the latest audited accounts as approved by the National Assembly. That is the constitutional dictate. But when you are dealing with those ones of 2014, 2015, then you want to table a report in mid-2019. I mean, surely, everybody in this country is duty-bound to defend and protect devolution. And it is the primary responsibility of this House, through the Public Accounts Committee, to ensure that that happens. So those two committees are put on notice: Public Accounts, Public Investments. And the members of those committees don't just say you want information. Which information? If there was any information, I would have seen the reports. Every day I'm approving reports from various departmental committees, and I must commend the departmental committees. I have not seen any report from Public Accounts and Public Investments. Yeah, indeed, even budget. The other day we got a report, which indeed is on the paper from the Special Funds Committee. It's the latest of our committees. They have already tabled a report, which is being debated. Public accounts is the oldest committee known in any democracy. In this, and no report, 12 months down the road. What is the justification? So members of that committee who may be here, including those who think that they have information, please give the information to your chair of the committee so that you bring a report to the House. The House will see what it is that you have been doing. So let's proceed to the next order. Not on that. There's no business. That's not business. No, it's never done that way. The member for Kilifi North, I think this member is really, what is the problem? This member should be given some 1 week tutorial on the standing orders. Because every day he wants to raise his hand up and say he wants to comment. About what? I see you most every day because you are very regular. One thing I must commend you, member for Kilifi North, is that you are a very, very active member of the House. Debate on this bill was concluded yesterday, and what remained was a question to be put, which I hereby do, that the Supplementary Appropriations number 2 bill, National
money out of the Consolidated Fund and the application towards the surveys of the year ending 30th June 2019, and to appropriate those sums for certain public services and purposes.
Leader Majority.
Speaker, I want to bring your attention to order number 10, Committee of the Whole House. And through your indulgence, Mr. Speaker, item order number 10, Roman 2 and 3, I really urge you and agree with me to step it down because the amendments both at the urban areas and cities, the amendment of the chair, have serious fundamental ramifications. And so the it has money issues, and having consulted the cabinet secretary and the chair, we have agreed we do more consultation. The same with the health laws. I need time to consult with the chair of health, Honorable Sabina. She has just walked in, so that with other stakeholders, because there are a number of items the committee is deleting. And being the originator of the bill, I need myself and the government and the state law office to be convinced that the action the committee is taking. So I really ask these two items, these two committee of the whole bill items be stepped down, and we deal with them next week. And Mr. Speaker, the other thing is because of the supplementary appropriation bill, Mr. Speaker, concerns most members here. It touches on our CDF. We are unable to get our allocation because of this bill. And I really want you to rearrange the order of business so that we dispose of that item when we have the quorum to put the question, and then we can go back to the other items.
Well, I can say the member of Oseme is certainly amused by that, and he would have no objections to that request. Therefore, honour members, this is going to be the order. So that member has assumed that he is in his constituency. You are in the chamber of the National Assembly. He's a member for Banisa. Wajir? Yes. And he's a member of one of the committees, I think, that is giving us problems by not producing reports. So, honour members, this is going to be the order of business. I know the chair of the Special Funds Committee, the Honorable Kadhuri Murungi, member for Imendi South, is very keen to have to proceed moving his report, and I must commend him because this is the youngest committee of the House, and they have indeed been able to produce a report within a very short time. I think it just speaks to the leadership. So, of course, if you see these things happen, it also has a reflection on the leadership. The chair must be a person who is committed to the work of that committee. Honorable Kaduri, this is commendable. You have done a good job, but of course, we also want to encourage you to proceed in the manner that you did. Take another set of constituencies, including political parties and all other funds, including the Women Fund. I think there's something called Women Fund or something, Youth Fund. All of them, please, help the House to know where it is where they are headed, so that it is not just the white ribbons. We also want to know managerial ability or capabilities in those funds. I've been requesting that we remove from the order paper, order number 10, appearing as Roman 2 and 3, for further consultation, to enable further consultation to happen. So, Urban Areas and Cities Amendment Bill is taken out of the order paper, as well as the Health Laws Amendment Bill for further consultation, so that when we move to the next order, we will move to order number 10, which is Committee of the Whole House. And I want to encourage members, to remain present if what the leader majority has said is to take effect, because you must have not less than 50 of yourselves present, including the member for Rongai, if somebody can fish him wherever he may have hidden himself after asking the question, because he represents a constituency, and what the leader majority has just said is about the Supplementary Appropriations Bill. And if you are minded, you should be able to conclude it today, so that possibly it can be ascended to become law first thing in the morning tomorrow. So, honourable members, just to encourage even those ones who are coming in, because they may not know what it is, why you are remaining here. Encourage them to remain around, because it is important, including even the women funds and all those other funds. They are all affected by the Supplementary Appropriations Bill. So we will move to the next order, but when the House concludes consideration of business in Committee of the Whole House, the House will revert immediately to order number 9, so the member for Imenti South can continue moving his report. It is accordingly so ordered. Member for Mumi Assist, Majority Whip, you want to say something? You had an intervention?
Mr. Speaker, I was almost standing for us to go to a committee of the whole House.
Chairman, budget. We are in clause 2 and you have an amendment.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Chair, I beg to move that the House adopts the amendment as proposed on the order paper.
Well, just some justification, Chair, so that members can be up to speed. What is the justification?
Honorable Chair, this relates to the increment that we did. You remember this is the only increment when we are doing the supplementary appropriation bill. The increment for the judiciary, the 1.5 billion shillings, is what has occasioned that amendment.
Okay.
And the net effect is just that 1.5 for the judiciary.
Okay, so I propose a question which is that clause 2 be amended as proposed by Honorable Ishungwa. I see members who want to speak to it. Honorable Bayaya. Honorable Manzo. Yes. Manzo say nay. The ayes have it, and I put the question which is that clause 2 as amended be part of the bill. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of our contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 3.
I propose a question which is that clause 3 be part of the bill. Doesn't have an amendment. I put the question which is that clause 3 be part of the bill. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of our contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The ayes have it.
Clause 4.
I propose a question which is that clause 4 be part of the bill. Chairperson.
Honorable Chairperson, I beg to move that the amendment as set out in the order paper.
Many times. This House chamber cannot be a tutorial center. We cannot teach you. It's in the order paper. You know, no. You have the order paper, the votes are there. So if you don't want to read the order paper, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chair, we will not be here to teach other people. So Honorable Wamalwa, he's one of the serious members of Parliament. He is a very serious member of Parliament. He's my good friend. So, but I'm sure he came late.
No, it's not about, I don't think it's about him coming late. I think he was very busy with constitutional matters. So he was, you know, he does very serious issues, Honorable Amalwa. So he has been, and he's recuperating from the effects. But I think what he said is justifiable, because really, for members, sometimes they do not have a lot of time to go through these things. It's good to give some details. So now that we have dispensed with that, and I see, let me give, so let me propose a question which is at clause 4 be amended as proposed by Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah. And I give 2 members. I see Honorable Dr. Makali Mulu. Honorable Mulu, surely it is not proper that you have placed the card here. And you know, I know you are a finance guru. So when you put it here, I assume that you actually want to speak to some of these things.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I was just trying to get the details so that we help my friend Wamalwa to appreciate what we are doing. But Mr. Chairman, what is happening is that through the executive order, which has reorganized some departments in the government, as a budget committee, we had to create new fort aids, because now we are getting some new AIE orders. So what is happening is all these changes are to factor in that executive order. Okay. So, and basically that's what is happening, so I support.
Okay. Now, Honorable Kisang.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I wanted to say that there were some new fort aids. During the first budget, the Minister of ICT had just 1 fort, and then in the course of issuance of Executive Order 2, there was a new department that was created. I believe these amendments is to take care of new fort aids that were created during Executive Order 2, so I support.
Very well. But what is the point of order, Honorable? Yeah? What's your point of order?
Chair, I'm looking at D1211 and D1204 on the paper, where the chairman referred to us, and I cannot find those vote heads.
Chair, what is it that you want to be clarified?
That I would like to see where is D1204 in the paper which he referred us to in this document, and 1211, D1211. Unless it's another document which I am not schooled.
Is it not the one which?
Honorable Chairperson, the leader, the minority whip, Honorable Junet Mohammed, is shouting from across that I asked the Honorable member to go to roommate. But it's just what the leader of majority was saying. I think it's important that we get time to be able to follow, because all these things, if you go to the bill, Mheshimiwa Baya, the original bill, you find all those things you're asking.
Yeah, I actually see it in, if I'm not wrong, it is somewhere
and in the schedules.
SD 1204, the one that is dealing with the State Department for Wildlife. And then there is the D1211. I don't know, you've seen it? Yeah, so that members really, when it would be very difficult for the chair of budget to be pinpointing everything that you would want clarified. You go through the details yourself, and in any case, they are in their order paper, so you can be able to pursue. So I put the question, which is that clause 4 be amended as proposed by Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it, and I put the question, which is that clause 4 as amended be part of the bill. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it.
New clause 3A.
I propose the question. Okay. I propose a question which is that new clause 3A be part of the bill. Now, Honorable Ichung'wah move Second reading.
Honorable Chair, I propose that the new clause 3A be now read a second time.
Very well.
Honorable Chair.
Proceed and explain, yes.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I wanted to explain that the new clause 3A, Honorable Chair, is just relates to A in A. Appropriations in aid that were not there in the original bill. For those who may have seen the original bill, it didn't have any figures on the appropriations in aid. Therefore, all we are doing is to introduce that 3A, which now creates, and you'll see in the schedule we have the figures now for the A in A.
Okay, then I propose a question which is that new clause 3A be now read a second time. Honorable Oundo Ojambo, you want to speak to this one?
Chairman, no, not on this one.
Not on that one, but you have gone on record anyway. Now, Honorable Mabonga Mwambu, member for Bomula. For as long as your name is here, I assume that you want to speak. Then I'm going to remove it from. Oh, you want to speak to this? Not on this one. Okay, Honorable, then Makali Mulu.
Makali.
Again.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I want to support this amendment because A in A is very important, Mr. Chairman, as we do budgeting. But even as I support Mr. Chairman, it is important that I say what I'm going to say. Mr. Chairman, this is one of the areas where we have been having challenges in terms of disclosure. There are a number of MDAs, Mr. Chairman, who hardly disclose what they are collecting. And as a result of that, there is no full accountability on the resources. So even as we include these resources here, Mr. Chairman, I would urge MDAs to make sure that they provide full disclosure when it comes to A in A. And they follow up on the collections so that we actually improve our revenue generation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very well. So I proceed to put the question, which is that the new clause 3A be now read a second time. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of our contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. And I propose a question which is that new clause 3A be part of the bill. I proceed to put the question which is that new clause 3A be part of the bill. Will as many as of that opinion say?
That's why you see the figures moving to 47 to 54,066. That is as a result of the 1.5 billion for the judiciary.
So actually what you are proposing is a deletion and a replacement with the new schedule?
Yes.
Okay. So I propose the question, which is that the first schedule be amended as proposed by Honorable. I propose a question, which is that the second schedule be amended as proposed by Honorable Ishungwa. Kisang, you want to speak to this one?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I stand to support and request that in future, maybe during Supplementary 2, I know we reduced close to 5.5 billion on a digital literacy program, and this was supposed to go to buy about 3,000 devices for those schools that have not received the devices, and then also some money to go to Kenya, KICD and TSC to undertake training and content development for our students. So I request that during Supplementary 2, if there will be additional resources, if the revenue collection improves, that we return back the 5.5 billion. And secondly, Honorable Chair, on CONSA, we are agreed that all the agencies under the Ministry of ICT move to CONSA as early as next year. But during Supplementary 1, 400 million was reduced. So I'll also request...
you are beginning to debate, Honorable Kisang.
Sorry, Chair. And then in case revenue improves, we get back the 400 million to complete CONSA complex.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So I proceed to put the question, which is that the second schedule be amended as proposed by Honorable Ishungwa. Will as many as of that opinion say aye?
Aye.
Many as of a contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The ayes have it. And I put the question, which is that the second schedule as amended be part of the bill. Will as many as of that opinion say aye?
Aye.
Many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. And there is an unruly member here. Who is this member The member for Isiolo. Member for Isiolo. You know, for me to take a vote on your decibels, we should not have a belated, shout. And again, when you are voting, the shout should not be, it should be in parliamentary. It should be a parliamentary shout, nothing else. So let's proceed.
Title.
I propose the question which is that the title be the title of the bill. I put the question which is that the title be the title to the bill. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contra opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 1.
I propose the question which is that clause 1 be part of the bill. Honorable Chair, I think you have an amendment on this one.
Honorable Chairperson, I propose that clause 1 be amended as set out on the order paper.
Very well. So I propose the question which is that clause 1 be amended as proposed by Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah. I put the question which is that clause 1 be amended as proposed by Honorable Ichung'wah. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contra opinion say nay? The ayes have it. I put the question which is that clause 1 as amended be part of the bill. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contra opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Now let's have the mover of the bill to move reporting. Proceed.
Honorable Chairperson, I beg to move that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the Supplementary Appropriations number 2 Bill of the National Assembly Bill number 23 of 2018 and its approval thereof with amendments.
Very well. So I proceed to put the question which is that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the Supplementary Appropriation number 2 Bill, National Assembly Bill number 23 of 2018 and its approval thereof with amendments. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
You are redeeming yourself. You are doing well.
Honorable members, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Chairperson.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank you. Honorable Speaker, I beg to report that the Committee of the Whole House has considered Supplementary Appropriation number 2 Bill, National Assembly Bill number 23 of 2018, and approved the same with amendments.
Mover.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. I also request Honorable Kioni to second the motion for agreement with the report of the Committee of the Whole House.
Honorable Kioni. Honorable members, I propose a question which is that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. Honorable members, I put the question which is that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Mover. What's it? Majority Leader.
So, Speaker, these seats are very comfortable. I don't know why people don't want to sit. But, Mr. Speaker, can you use your powers so that we get the quorum that unless we finish this matter, nobody should leave the chamber, including the member for Kigumo?
Yes, certainly there was even a soft communication from the Speaker earlier on that this is a critical matter, just like any other matter that we deal with. I will really suggest and appeal to the members. It will take a few minutes. Mover.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the Supplementary Appropriations Bill number 2, Bill of the National Assembly Bill number 23 of 2018, be now read a third time. I also request Honorable Sabina Chege to second.
Honorable Sabina.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I second.
Honorable members, I propose a question which is that the Supplementary Appropriations number 2 Bill, National Assembly Bill number 23 of 2018, be now read at that time. Honorable members, I have confirmed the issue of quorum. I therefore put the question
and amend the Act so that it can be able to increase the Oversight Committee allocation, which is only 1% from the monitoring and evaluation money given, to about 2%. And if possible, Mr. Speaker, we should be able to have this Oversight Committee, which is very important in terms of the development in areas, be funded directly from the CDF, say 2% from the CDF. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, and I think this was again noted by most members, that this committee noted that the current CDF CEO, whom all of us know is doing a very good job, he's of 10 million shillings on account. Sometimes you find that you have projects and you give out checks to various projects, the schools and colleges and what have you, CDF, or even bursaries, and people don't take money to the accounts on time. So you find that on the account, you may be moving forward to be able to do other projects, but you find that on the account, CDF account in your own area has about 10 million shillings. Actually noted that, and I think we should reduce this to something like 5%, 5 million, or even less than that. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, I also want to say that, and I think we mentioned, most people mentioned that yesterday during the debate, that some of the projects that actually was initiated by CDF before they was developed to the county governments are still outstanding out there. In my own case, I have about 2 projects, one of which is a dispensary which I initiated, and I spent almost 2 million shillings. It's still there, and therefore we feel that the CDF should be able to flex the muscle so they can be able to give out money to complete some of those projects, because county governments have actually ignored those projects, and they actually are white elephants in the respective.
To this house, I belong to PIC, and of course today we had our share of castigation from the speaker because we've not been able to produce a single report. So I wish to register my congratulations to the chair and his committee for a job well done. But on the same note, I wish to state that going by the achievements by CDF, National Government Constituency Development Funds across the country, this is the only fund that is felt across the board. We've had other funds that are devolved to the county governments, an increase from the whatever it is currently to an amount that is going to be accepted by this house. Secondly, there's an issue of stored projects. After the revision and the amendment of CDF Act, there are so many projects that were left incomplete. And going forward, we need to really come up with a way so that then we can, the 190 can benefit from those investments. Finally, I also want to castigate the executive, because it seems like every time they fall short of funds, the easy target becomes the CDF, because that's, our money is always reduced, so that then maybe we can cater for some loopholes in the budgetary allocations of other state departments. So really that's something that we need to safeguard and ring-fence, make sure that CDF money is not intended
to borrow from them. And specifically, Mr. Speaker, the Senate, which is, has a bigger mandate of ensuring that money sent to the county government is spent wisely. If I had powers, I would say all senators should be attached to this committee for a period not less than 6 months, because we've seen a lot of money getting lost through counties, Mr. Speaker. And we cannot just say that all is well. This country has lost a lot of money, money which can be used to transform the lives of the Kenyan people by improving the health care, which is a completely devolved function. And even as we commend this committee, we also want to suggest improvement in future, that there is no point that money is given to a particular entity, is spent, then 1 year after that money was spent, you are coming up with a report after 2 or 3 years. We need to completely, once a particular entity has been given money, the next financial year, before they are given another money, we should show efforts to actually look into how the previous money that was allocated, how that money had been spent. And during our interrogation of budget, such issues, audit queries should inform this House on whether to approve more money for such individual activities or reduce the money. Because there is no point of giving money to fund a particular activity whose previous funds allocated to that particular state agency was misappropriated. So it is very important that this House should not just be conveyor belt just to stamp and approve budget, but such audit reports must also inform our decision in terms of approving and going forward. We should also, this House has been vetting various Kenyans for public appointment, and such reports are very important because to me, a person who has been heading an institution that has several audit queries should not even be brought before this House for vetting. If at all we want to actually assist this country, Mr. Speaker. And I also want to echo the sentiments of our colleagues who have said that other committees should also move with the speed and try to table reports on this committee to show our commitment into executing our mandate as properly anchored in the Constitution, Mr. Speaker. And I want to sum it up by saying that we appreciate this committee, and we hope that they are also going to move into other sectors of government to be able to give us as a report. And as much as we have appreciated the chairman, the chairman is a very close friend of the member of parliament for Bumula, Mr. Speaker, who is a bishop. This also confirms that when you work with a bishop, you become a straightforward person, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Mambonga.
Is it? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thanks, Honorable Ditmas for committee for appreciating the work that has been done by this committee. But basically it's about leadership, Mr. Speaker. We have a very able chairman who has done a very good job. And today, just for point of information, I wish to bring to your attention, Mr. Speaker, the report before you, there are actually 51 reports. Because it's not one report, it's 51. Because we've done actually 17 constituents. And we've been looking at the reports, audited reports of 2013, 2014, 2014, 2015, and 2015, 2016. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, I wish to point out a few things that we've just come across during our deliberations as we look into these reports. One, you realize that, Mr. Speaker, at times, even the bursary that is supposed to be given to our children as early as the beginning of the year, we do it even towards the end of the year. And something which is very basic. Mr. Speaker, we are in the 21st century. And I don't see why money cannot be transferred electronically, whereby at least the fund manager will just be receiving the receipt for the same. Because if it's done that way, I can assure you, Mr. Speaker, the following day, the money will be in the account. And the kind of things that is happening is because of those delays. One of the things that we've just established is that because the board itself is not properly constituted, Mr. Speaker, why should somebody act for almost 7 years? If somebody is incompetent, that person should be removed in the office. And if you know he has been doing a good job, Mr. Speaker, this House should stamp its authority and ensure that the CEO is confirmed with immediate effect. Something else that has been pointed out, Mr. Speaker, is about these projects that were transferred to the county government. And it's true, most dispensaries right now, there's nothing we can do. But one thing, maybe the lapse where the lapse occurred is because, you see, what they could have done, maybe they could have been given a grace period to ensure that those projects that have been started by CDF are completed fast. And if anything, if that is the case and the government has not taken over, it's the responsibility of this House to ensure that actually Treasury and the Minister of Planning complete those projects. Because the common Mwananchi doesn't understand. All those questions are coming to us, that these are CDF projects. So something has to be done, Mr. Speaker. Something else that we really observed in our engagement, we realized that it's at times deliberate. And it's because maybe somebody is acting, maybe he doesn't have those powers to summon some of these fund managers. You will realize that the auditors goes to the ground, they have sent even a communication, they have notified them, but the audited reports, documents are not submitted to them. So the auditors goes to the ground, there are no reports. He goes back, like some of them for 2013, 2014, actually they were being submitted as late as the time we were sitting in the meeting. This is something that has to be looked into, and it's about the leadership of the board. And then something else, Mr. Speaker, that we need to consider is probably when we are talking of actually the board itself, it's not just about, because most of these people who sit in this board are actually the public servants, I mean. So what we need, because even raising a quorum is a problem. So how will you raise a quorum and deliberate on issues that are affecting the constituents if yourself even you have no powers to summon the members? This is something that should be seriously be addressed, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that at least we are serving the common Mwananchi who is looking upon us to provide leadership in our area that we are serving. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and once again I want to congratulate the members and the able leadership of Honorable Member of South Imendi, Honorable Kadhuri Muruki. Thanks a lot, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity.
Let's have Honorable Oudo Ojiambo.
Thank you, Speaker, for this opportunity to contribute to this report. First of all, I must commend the chair, my erstwhile friend, who are with him in the regime to the new regime. The transition from the old constitution and the new constitution. We have so many incomplete, stalled projects that we are unable to allocate funds, we are unable to implement because they no longer fall within the mandate of the CDF funds. For example, in my constituency of Funyula, we have the Busijo Water Project that was purportedly committee to really look at the procurement procedure. The purpose of CDF is to take developments to the ground. The purpose of CDF is to assist local contractors gain sufficient experience and skills to enable them operate to the next level. Unfortunately, the insistence that we must adhere to the Public Procurement and Disposal Act in the procurement of services and goods makes it a challenge to bring forth or develop these small contractors. We therefore request that as much as is prudent and is good financial management to comply with the PPDA Act, it is important that an element of relaxation.
Committees, that is Public Accounts Committee, who was seeking an intervention before the Speaker today. And Mr. Speaker, because I know the dynamics of these oversight committees, I want to start by congratulating my brother Kadhuri and his committee, Special Funds. Mr. Speaker, we face a lot of, we are under a lot of pressure to deliver, Mr. Speaker, because as you know, we need to update even the government financials, Mr. Speaker. But even because it's related, given the nature of our work, Mr. Speaker, there has been having a lot of backlog insofar as auditing government books is concerned. And in fact, in PAC currently, and I believe in PIC the same, we are actually working 2 years concurrently. That is 14-15 and 15-16 concurrently, and I'm sure I will be breaking for writing of reports actually this month, Mr. Speaker, so that we deliver to this House and to the people of Kenya. But, Mr. Speaker, the issue of oversight is actually not just an issue of policy, because you are dealing with people and you are dealing with queries about misappropriation of government funds. And, Mr. Speaker, nowadays, as you know, there has been a proliferation of stealing and misappropriation of government funds. And, Mr. Speaker, that adds even to our work even the more. And I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, the kind of audit queries, for example, you get in a department we may term as not so much consequential, like sports, Mr. Speaker, is humongous in nature. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I want to believe that the members of this House will be a little patient, and I believe we will deliver to them very soon. But, Mr. Speaker, as you know, CDF has been a very important fund to this country. And in myself, I believe that the real devolution in this country is actually not the devolution that we know. The real devolution is the CDF devolution. And I say so, Mr. Speaker, because, as you know, there are some laws that govern CDF. And one of them that is a very efficient regulation is that we can only spend, or the CDF committee can only spend, not more than 5% on administration. And I believe, Mr. Speaker, that is a reef that the national government can actually, the entire national government, to say so, can actually borrow from how CDF is managed. That we are given 100 million, and only 5 million actually goes to paying even the salaries, the rents, and other admin costs. Mr. Speaker, I believe if we were to adopt such a formula in the national landscape, Mr. Speaker, the Kenyan people would actually see the billions of money in terms of the budget that we read every year going to the services that matter to them. And, Mr. Speaker, of note, because currently CDF is left with a quite lean obligation, and specifically about education, and education in two matters, Mr. Speaker, that is infrastructure and bursaries. And, Mr. Speaker, because I believe you are also a member of Parliament, you know the importance of CDF insofar as the helping the social structure of our society is concerned. But, Mr. Speaker, we are also doing so much when it comes to building infrastructure in our schools. And on the same, Mr. Speaker, I would want this House to actually demand from the other stakeholders, like the Ministry of Education, just the same way we appropriate CDF, we would also want some kind of clarity on how the money for infrastructure from the Ministry of Education, Mr. Speaker, is appropriated. Because, Mr. Speaker, we can only work together to complement each other, and we cannot afford to duplicate each other. And I would urge the Ministry of Education to always closely work with the members of Parliament so that we don't duplicate our roles. The other one, Mr. Speaker, is the issue of security. And, Mr. Speaker, we are doing so much insofar as building offices for our chiefs and AP camps are concerned, and even helping our police force, Mr. Speaker. And, Mr. Speaker, on the same, I would urge for a lot of collaboration between OP and CDF and members of Parliament, because, Mr. Speaker, ultimately, no one has done more public participation than us. We are always with the people, we know where the needs are, and therefore, Mr. Speaker, we can do much more in collaborating with them. But on the same, Mr. Speaker, on security matters, because the matters of electricity, security matters are on our side, Mr. Speaker, and we continue to do the same with CDF. Mr. Speaker, I would urge even the other government departments, just the same way we work so closely with an organization like REA, that is Rural Electrification Authority, to a level where we even have a matching kind of program, that Keharo constituency can give 4 million and REA can give off 4 million, then we propose the villages to light, Mr. Speaker, or to install transformers, or to build electricity power lines, Mr. Speaker. I believe the same can also work with Kenya Power, because currently it's not there. So that Kenya Power, through their investment fund, Mr. Speaker, or their reinvestment fund, they can actually work with CDF. We top up something, then they top up, because the same needs we are trying to solve, or the same solutions we are trying to solve to Mwananchi, Mr. Speaker, is actually the same. Mr. Speaker, one of the predicaments that we continue to face insofar as CDF is concerned is actually systems. And that is the truth of the matter, that a lot of CDF currently is actually done manual. Mr. Speaker, I would challenge even the CDF board and the CEO, who has done an exemplary job, to consider having an IT system that is the same across all constituencies, Mr. Speaker, so that if, for example, we are giving bursaries, even the internal auditors right here at the CDF board can actually be able to tell how many people we give bursaries in Kiharu, or any other person who is interested to know can actually key in into that system, which is uniform across the constituencies, Mr. Speaker, and I believe that would solve a lot of issues insofar as audit queries are concerned. The same would happen to projects, Mr. Speaker. Instead of them, actually the subcommittee on oversight from CDF coming blindly to any constituency, they actually ought to have a uniform system, where if, for example, I'm building 20 schools, these 20 schools, the fund manager in Kiharu has a system that manages efficiently how this money is disbursed and even how this money is being spent from the banking side, Mr. Speaker, of the project. But, Mr. Speaker, lastly, one thing that I will keep saying in this House over and over again, Mr. Speaker, and I'll still want to repeat it, is the issue of inequality when it comes to disbursement of CDF. Mr. Speaker, it is not fair, and it cannot be termed as justice, that a member of parliament with a constituency of 200 schools, Mr. Speaker, with a landmass that is equal to that, Mr. Speaker, with a population that is so high, be given the same amount of money as a person with even a tenth or a quarter of the same, Mr. Speaker, population, number of schools, landmass, etc. Mr. Speaker, it is high time that we need to revise how CDF is dispersed. This blanket equity, Mr. Speaker, is not just about equality. This equity is discriminative, because there is no way, for example, starting here as a member for Kiharu, I have 120,000 registered voters with 200 schools. I'm giving the same amount of money with someone, for example, with 20,000 registered voters, with 4 schools, for example, Mr. Speaker, with a few people to give bursaries. Mr. Speaker, this is an issue that we have to address, because it is discriminatory, Mr. Speaker, and it is serving, it is giving and making our Wananchi ask us so many questions insofar as how we spend this government fund. But, Mr. Speaker, there has been delays even from Treasury insofar as releasing CDF funds to the CDF board is concerned. Currently, there are so many constituencies who are actually in the last financial year with their money stuck with Treasury, because Treasury has not released these monies to the CDF board. We want to ask the Treasury to also consider always fast-tracking CDF, Mr. Speaker, because the expectation insofar as CDF is concerned is very different from the other government services. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, I also want to urge even other government agencies like Kura, Mr. Speaker, let them learn that you cannot just wake up, come build a road, for example, in Laikipia, without asking the member of parliament the priority road. Let them work closely with us so that we don't duplicate, and at the same time, Mr. Speaker, we become efficient in expending public funds, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. I support.
Honorable Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this report of the Special Funds and Accounts Committee. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to start by congratulating this committee and thanking them for bringing this report. I think this is probably the first time that we are seriously, independently discussing the report away from the consolidated reports or accounts of government or other departments of government. And I say that I'm happy that this report is coming at this time. I'm aware that Speaker made communication, especially regarding the performance of Public Accounts Committee and Public Investment Committee. It is a concern to us as leadership of the House. We actually discussed it now twice in the House Business Committee. And given the fact that the report of Public Accounts Committee is very crucial, and I'm saying this well aware that I'm the leader of minority side which chairs both committees. And I am in no doubt that the leadership of those committees are competent enough to realize the urgency with which this country
wants the reports, especially of the Public Accounts Committee, so that next period of division of revenue, we would have up-to-date or at least recent audited and approved accounts, because we put it in our constitution that we would share revenue based on the last audited and approved accounts. And as it is today, Mr. Speaker, we are the last audited and approved accounts is up to 2013, 2014. But the audited accounts are up to date, up to 2017. So, Mr. Speaker, I know we are meeting the leadership of those committees on Tuesday in the House business to try and see how, as a House, we would not let the people of Kenya down by not having updated accounts. But now coming back to Honorable Kathuri's committee report, I want to again say that the chair of this committee is someone I think we have very kind words for, Mr. Speaker. But I know he's working collectively with his members in that committee. We are happy that this report has been brought. It is also sending a very strong message out there and to the people of Kenya that members of parliament are not only interested in oversighting funds that they have no interaction or direct interaction with, but even CDF, which is considered, or national government CDF, which is considered to be having close interaction with MPs, can also be debated. And this is going to happen for all the 290 constituencies in this republic, so that we demonstrate and show that the money that is allocated or appropriated for any public service is prudently and efficiently spent for the welfare of the people of Kenya. But Mr. Speaker, you will realize when you look at the reports, the audited reports on national government CDF, and you look at the audit queries, there is no doubt that the audit queries are minimal when it comes to this fund compared to other government funds, be it national government funds or the money that is spent by the national government or that which is spent by the county governments. Mr. Speaker, there are a number of reasons. And I'm not saying that all the constituencies are clean. There are constituencies with serious audit queries. There are also constituencies with audit queries that can be addressed. Because again, something that we need to also tell the public, because most Kenyans are not finance experts, they are not accountants, they are not economists. They probably don't understand what an audit query is. We also need to start educating our people that audit query is not equal to embezzlement of funds. That sometimes, because the discussion in this country. But why is it? And that is what I want to concentrate on. And this, I wish, and I'm sure if the senators were listening to me, I would challenge the senators. The reason why CDF, the spending of CDF has a level of efficiency is because of community involvement. And I think it is high time that we moved towards community involvement in implementation of projects. We are all aware that for you to spend, or for any constituency to spend CDF, that project being funded must form a project management committee, where the local community are the ones who are in charge of implementation. They're the ones who receive the funds, they're the ones who do the procurement, they're the ones who supervise the construction. The role of probably a member of parliament and the CDF, the constituency committee, is just to go and see and check and oversight what has been done. How I wish that the monies that we allocate to counties, which go to ghost projects, Mr. Speaker. I say so because when you look at the budgets of the counties, take even one budget line of roads, you will see huge allocations. But Mr. Speaker, by the end of the year, there is no road done, the money is spent, contractors are paid. What you hear is that some people have already repatriated the funds, they have taken the funds out of the country. They have built buildings in Tanzania, some go to even Dubai, and these stories are real. Some money is taken overseas. Mr. Speaker, it's because no one is answerable to the implementation of the new water being drilled. So, Mr. Speaker, that to me is one of the main reasons why I wanted to contribute to this motion, that this system that we have under CDF in a small way. I say it's a small way because how much is CDF? A constituency has only 100 million. The biggest project you can implement is, say, costing 2 million. If we can give schools money to put up laboratories, and with it, that school has a project committee, and they implement the construction of a laboratory and have it done, why can't a county government which wants to put up ECD center also have the money go to the project committee of the ECD center which is supposed to be constructed, so that that PMC is responsible for the dispatch and implementation of that project. Mr. Speaker, the reason why counties don't want this is because they don't want to let go the money, they want to embezzle the funds. Mr. Speaker, that can also affect other national government ministries and departments. But Mr. Speaker, as I wind up, I have heard my colleagues have talked about the monitoring committee. I also want to ask the chairman now of the CDF. I don't see him here. Should have been here when we are discussing the accounts of the national government CDF committee, Honorable Maoka Maori. We need this committee functioning. We created it in law, it is not functioning. You cannot have a committee in place where the national government CDF committee are getting allowances, and this committee, you want them to just work without even allowance. So we need to have a portion of the CDF, not so much. In fact, if anything, and my colleagues will agree with me, the only government funding in this country which has the least administrative cost is in national government CDF. In fact, if you calculate projects, that committee for all the 290 constituencies should start working. There's something which was said last, I think this motion came last week or on Tuesday, when some colleagues talked about the CEO of this board. Mr. Speaker, looking for a job, and you put between this period and this period, 10 years, you are acting. Someone will ask you, you are acting for 10 years. What does that mean? That you are not qualified to be confirmed. And this gentleman, for whatever it is worth, I would say in terms of relationship with members of parliament, in terms of serving us in this fund, he has excelled. And by the way, if he failed, I am sure by now members of parliament would have gotten rid of that gentleman. To serve members of parliament, to satisfy them, when you are managing funds that has some direct impact on their political future, is not easy, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, that's why I was saying Honorable Maoka Maori should have been here. He must take up this matter and have this position filled permanently. And if possible, filled by the person who is sitting there. In fact, even under labor laws and our laws in this country, having served for 7 years on acting capacity and we have not complained, that is enough reason to confirm someone. So let that action be taken. Mr. Speaker, I just want to conclude by asking the chairman that please move with speed. You are finished with Nairobi. I heard you are going to Kisumu. I think Nairobi is the biggest county. You are going to Kisumu. I'm wondering at this rate, Mr. Chairman, when will you be done with all the 47 counties, but some are tiny like Lamu? Quickly, you can even combine some 3 counties which are not so big and bring their reports together. If you do that, you will set a pace that probably your predecessors in oversight committees have not achieved. I think Honorable Aluale did very well as the chair of PAC in terms of bringing accounts up to speed. I think his efforts are appreciated. I want to ask Honorable Wandai, wherever he is, that we want to see by February, we must see that the reports of Public Accounts Committee, our audited accounts, come.
One of the things is that I remember when we were doing the Constitution back in 2010 and before, we were faced with the issue of CDF because many then who are seated here but were in the NGO world were very keen to get it done away with. But it was clear in our minds that even though there is a separation of power, the success story of CDF could not be wished away,
And it was only fair that we made sure that it was maintained or retained in one way or another. And it was, if you go through the Hansard, we did mention then that we need to do acts of parliament to ensure that it continues in one way or another. We had many people visiting this country from other parts of the country then who are trying to come and learn from the model of CDF because of its effectiveness. So, Mr. Speaker, even as we debate this, it's important that, and I echo the words of many, that Mr. Buno cannot act for that long. I remember he took over from Agnes when we gave Agnes the opportunity to serve as the controller of budget. And keeping him acting for this long, I was talking to him some couple of days ago and wondering why it is that he's still acting. But one of the things he mentioned to me, I don't know whether that has been remedied to date, is that there is no board. I think the board is a group of the group of PSs who are supposed to be acting when a substantive board is not in place. And I hope that the committee of Mahakama Wale can also move and make sure that we have a board so that they can deal with those issues that have been raised by members, among others. But I was giving that background, Mr. Speaker, so that I can say the following. That while we agree that there is this whole thing about separation of powers, and we have men and ladies known as fund managers who are supposed to help in the administration of CDF at the constituency level. My experience in the last 1 year has nothing to do with what I saw 10 years, maybe during 10th Parliament. The Mwananchi from Daragwa, and it is a Mwananchi from every other corner, has a clear understanding about CDF, that if it does well, it's because there was some direction given by Member of Parliament. If it doesn't perform, they will send the Member of Parliament home. Now we have a bunch of fund managers, and I call them a bunch because I've not had a good experience with them in the last 1 year, who think that you have literally nothing to do with it, and you are a stranger. And I think they need to be told they are the strangers in our constituency. They are employees of the government. My employee is the members who voted for me, and mine is 5 years. They will move on to another constituency. I will be sent home if they mismanage this fund. We know that we can only give some ideas. It is supposed to be outside the members of parliament control. But that misinformation, that akiri, I don't know where it has come from, that a member of parliament cannot say anything because he is the fund manager, I think they need to get it very clear. This is a creation of members of parliament. It is meant to serve those who elected, and you are the one who promised that you are going to do some things for them. And it is, if members are not careful with this, that guy called fund manager will send you home. And you send you home before your term expires. And I can tell you that, and I am sure that is not going to happen in Daragwa. I would rather just close those offices if they cannot listen to what we are saying. Let me go to the next thing, Mr. Speaker. That when these funds are being, I know before we had a very poor way of distributing these funds. I would get 40 million shillings at Dalagwa, and another constituency was getting 120 million shillings. We now have 100 million, 110 distributed equally. It's not the best, because I am sitting next to Mheshimiwa Kwenya from Kinago. He has 120,000 registered voters. He is getting 100 million. I have about 50,000 registered voters getting the same amount of money. It is not a fair thing, because when it comes to him dealing with bursaries and the rest, you certainly struggle more than I am struggling, and it is not a fair thing when eventually you look at it on the fact that we all are paying taxes and we need to treat Kenyans equally. The other thing that I think is important to mention is that we have the devolved units, and we are happy, and we support them. And I think it is always important to say this, that devolution is not supported, it is not existing, and it will not continue existing because we have the Senate. It is there because for you to do anything on devolution, there must be a referendum. So the persons who protect devolution is not the Senate. That is a complete misinformation and a misplaced statement. Senate is a flower team that will remain there for a while. And even when I join it, I will also be part of that flower team. And, but what I want to say is that devolution protected by the fact that if you want to bring any changes, you must get a referendum. What we have seen in the last 6 years, or 7 years now, is that the effectiveness, the impact that CDF has, you can't measure it against the county government performance. And it is only fair that then, if that is the case, and it is the case, that you are actually able to achieve more through CDF than we can achieve through county governments as they are now performing. I think it's only fair that we look for ways of increasing the allocation to CDF so that we can fast track the developments that need to be there. And of course, ways of cutting on duplication, we also need to work on it. I was attending a barrio on Tuesday in my place, and the governor came, and I don't want to say much about my governor. We have quarrels in my county. But he had given coffins, and one of the coffins gave in. And you can imagine a coffin giving in when you are seated there. You can imagine the mess that we were in. Because even the quality of the coffin has nothing to do with the kind of money that has been mentioned. And that is also, it actually is the same thing that is happening with the projects. The kind of projects that they are actually implementing are really, it's really a scary thing. We'll have to do a lot to do with that. But crucially, what I want to say is that even the coffin giving, even procuring a coffin is a problem. But these are issues that we have to live with because they are part of us, and we are going to be together for another 3-4 years. So we'll get used to going perhaps with a spare coffin, just in case what they bring around gives in again. But what I wanted to say is that the duplication rate is so scary. You'll find the whole team of county government coming to kind of piggyback on the projects that are being done by the national government, or even projects that are being done by CDF. And we need to come up with ways to avoid that level of duplication because it does not help at all. Mr. Speaker, I also want to mention something about the fact that projects at the constituency level are supposed to be conceived by the people themselves and acted upon by the committee. What is me as to how is it that we have these things they are calling IT hubs? And we have, from my constituency, we've written back to say that there may be a need, but not for. But they are being lumped down on us. And I wish Maoka was here. And this committee of CDF needs to be a little bit awake to what we are saying. You cannot be forced to do projects that have been conceived at the national office here. If I don't need hubs, like where they wanted to do hubs it's somewhere in the bush where the youth will not even access. So I think it is important that they listen to us. If it's a question of allocating funds for these hubs, the committee at the local level should do it, not at the national level. Mr. Speaker, I know my time is, I wish I had more time like minority leader, but I wish to thank the committee for the work they have done. And I say the CDF is the most important thing. It's a success story in this country. We need to grow it and grow it well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, before I get to my left, Honorable Wanyonyi and Honorable Denita have been very patient, actually. And I will start with Honorable Denita. Honorable Wanyonyi will be giving much straight later. Honorable Denita.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to really support and thank our chair. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that I want to really contribute to this report. And I want to initially and quickly say that the chair of our committee, Mr. Speaker, because I belong to this committee, the Special Funds Accounts Committee, we really went through a lot of discussion around these reports. And Mr. Speaker, I want to really congratulate him, the member for Imenti South. This is a true reflection, Mr. Speaker, of the findings that we had in the committee. Mr. Speaker, having said that, I really want to also say that, Mr. Speaker, I am a product of CDF. The bursary component of CDF, Mr. Speaker, enabled me to go through my education, Mr. Speaker, as a young girl, growing up in Korea of my county. And Mr. Speaker, I can therefore say and vouch for the continuity of CDF. Mr. Speaker, for me, that was the time when Honorable Machage, Honorable Wilfred Machage was my MP. And that time I was still in high school, Mr. Speaker. So I know what value CDF has to the very many children of this country, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, for me, I want to say there is value in CDF, and I really want to thank the brains that went down, Mr. Speaker, from 2003, when the inception of this fund really came into being. Mr. Speaker, CDF cannot just go without mention. I know that so many communities, Mr. Speaker, have benefited, and the bursaries, Mr. Speaker, the bursary component of CDF is what I would vouch for, Mr. Speaker. Bursaries is a major challenge to parents and children, Mr. Speaker, in accessing education. And Mr. Speaker, as I sat in that committee, and when we were looking at this audited report, Mr. Speaker, I was asking myself, how can we even increase the bursary allocation of CDF so that parents, Mr. Speaker, are able to be cushioned so that children, so many children can access education. And Mr. Speaker, for me, in one of my recommendations, I would actually vouch for an increase of the bursary, percentage of bursaries in CDF to enable so many children in rural areas, Mr. Speaker. Many people have seen CDF. It is working, Mr. Speaker. And I really want to say that this is the best fund that we have seen. We have grown seeing CDF working. In all the 17 counties of, 17 constituencies of this county of Nairobi, Mr. Speaker, that we evaluated, we realized the importance of CDF in terms of the schools, in terms of renovating infrastructure, in terms of the education, Mr. Speaker. So, for me, Mr. Speaker, this is a fund. This fund, everyone who has grown in this country has a history with CDF, and especially children from rural areas, rural settlements, who would never have gone to school because of a lack of bursary. So, Mr. Speaker, I would also suggest and ask, Mr. Speaker, because as we interacted with these funds and with these reports, we realized, Mr. Speaker, that the CDF, the fund managers, Mr. Speaker, at the constituency levels, Mr. Speaker, had been posted there, and they have been working at the county, at the constituency offices, Mr. Speaker. I would even have suggested, Mr. Speaker, and I wanted to make even that suggestion, that as we move forward, these fund managers, Mr. Speaker, should be given the number of years to stay in a certain constituency. Mr. Speaker, I think I want the board to take that as my suggestion, to ensure that there is a law that actually tells how many years a fund manager of a fund can stay in a constituency. There are some fund managers who stay in a constituency, Mr. Speaker, and they get so acclimatized to that constituency that sometimes even the member of parliament has really no much say. So we really need to even put laws to say that a fund manager of CDF can stay in a certain constituency for 3, 4, 5 years and move and shift to another constituency. That way, Mr. Speaker, we are creating an environment where so many other fund managers can come in and bring their various expertise within that constituency, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I really want to say that for CDF, we also need these fund managers that are in our constituencies to go through a regular training program by the board. Because, Mr. Speaker, you realize that some fund managers who are posted within the constituency levels that really have no 1, 2, 3 ideas. So we really need to ensure that we put minimum standards of a fund manager in terms of managing fund in that constituency, in the various constituencies. That way, it should be a requirement, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, having said that, I really want to say that that CDF is the best thing. For me, Mr. Speaker, CDF is the best thing that ever happened to this country. Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, let me say that I really want to support the whole report of this Special Funds Accounts Committee. And Mr. Speaker, I look forward again to getting into other counties where we are going to analyze and look at the audited reports of the various CDF accounts of the other counties. And Mr. Speaker, if you quickly look around, even the composition of that committee, that board, that committee at the constituency level, that constitutes the CDF. Mr. Speaker, I am happy because I am representative. I'm a member of parliament representing persons with disabilities. And for once, Mr. Speaker, we are seeing in that committee, at that level, Mr. Speaker, we have representation of the youth, we have representation of persons with disabilities, so that, Mr. Speaker, it is very clear that people with disabilities needs are able to be addressed, because they already have a representative who sits in the committee of CDF at that level. So that, Mr. Speaker, as we move forward, we are including everybody, even in the designing of programs that affect the people and affect the communities where these people come from. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, allow me to congratulate the chair and support this report. I thank you.
Honorable Manzo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to comment on this very important report. And I would like to say that, Mr. Speaker, CDF has been very, very successful in the country. It is a fund which is held at the grassroots. It is managed with the least expense, and it is managed by the people of Kenya. The work of the Member of Parliament is merely oversight, and in a lot of times, the team which is on ground works very well with Wananchi. There is public participation, Mr. Speaker, and one is able to see the effects almost immediately. Despite there being a lot of funding in the counties, a lot of monies are spent on the organization, on administration, and by the time you are doing development, in many occasions, though in Makueni County they have done well, you are not able to see the products of other funds, but CDF is conspicuous. You can see it in every primary school. You can see it in every chief's camp. You can see it in projects which deal with the environment, because there's a little percentage, and even a little percent of it serves sports. Mr. Speaker, if you look at CDF and the reporting system and the audit system, you realize that many Kenyans are happy with it, although it's a small amount of the total budget of the country. We need to look at the law in future so that it can be increased substantially, because it is handling a very important aspect of the infrastructure of schools, which also is handled by Ministry of Education, and is a national government activity. The national government CDF also is seen in this report as a serious challenge. For many members who may not know, there's a time CDF was taken to court, and in fact there are several matters pending in court challenging the constitutionality of CDF. In fact, one matter is in the Supreme Court, there are others in the Court of Appeal and the High Court. The Honorable Kaluma and myself have been assisting the CDF, the national CDF councils to go through these matters on a voluntary basis, and to make sure that we protect this very important fund. In fact, at one point, we lost in court, and we had to make a new statute. The national government now still very serious challenges facing this fund, but the truth of the matter is it is very successful and has least corruption issues, because the people at the grassroots control it, and they also help the Member of Parliament to oversight it. Now there's the Oversight Committee, where the member is supposed to have 4 other members, and unfortunately there's a very small budget, and I think that Oversight Committee is very, very important, and should be relooked at again by the committee dealing with the national government CDF. We also have the challenge of the management, the board, Mr. Speaker. The board right now is composed of 4 members of, 4 permanent secretaries of the related ministries, such as education, there is planning, there is treasury, and if you look at all that, if these PSS are not joined by the CEO, or if one of the PSS does not show up, there's no quorum. So it is even a wonder how this fund has survived, and I must thank the 4 PSS who sit in this committee, because they are so punctual, and they cancel so many other government activities to participate, because in the moment one of them misses or has even traveled outside the country, there's no quorum, and without quorum there are so many important decisions on projects which cannot be made by this particular board. And therefore it is very important, and this House has pronounced itself on the 10th and 11th Parliament, that the CEO who has served for many years faithfully, and I can assure you it is very difficult for any government officer to satisfy members of parliament. They are very thorough and they scrutinize activities very well. And every member of parliament who has been to that office has seen now the acting CEO, Mr. Yusuf Buno, has served them. This house has even pronounced itself that Mr. Yusuf Buno be confirmed with immediate effect in the 11th parliament. So it's surprising that this order of this honorable house has not been complied with. And therefore, the other 7 members of that particular board should also be filled with immediate effect. We have many members of parliament who lost their seats, understood CDF very well, are very competent. Some of them sat in the CDF committee. All these members are eligible to come and assist us manage this very important fund. And we have many other Kenyans of good standing who can be board members. And therefore, the ministry in charge should really move with speed. You know, it is this confirmation happens with a proposal from the minister and the confirmation of this house. And I'm sure this house is on its part. It's more than willing to appoint this very important board under the law. And also the CEO, and the CEO's matter should be with immediate effect, Mr. Speaker. So there has been that particular challenge, and I believe it is within our realm to participate as a house and make sure one of the boards which serve us is in place and is able to serve Kenyans as soon as possible and in a most effective way, such that development projects which need the approval of the board are able to be, held out with a lot of care and speed and that accountability and because you see, once the process is completed at the constituency level, it has to come to the national board of the national government CDF. And if that board does not exist, then the members of staff in that particular body have been working very well. It will be even more encouraging when they have a full board. And I therefore really want to say that this matter, Mr. Speaker, must be handled with immediate effect. It should become a concern of each and every single member here. I want to say that the employees of the board, most of them have felt that because they have been working with the CDF and with the people, resigned to go and run for against ourselves in many constituencies, and they lost terribly because other than the chairman of CDF, I've not seen a former, I think only 1 or 2 made it as a member of parliament, and therefore like 40 of them had resigned. So this is forcing the constituency managers, some of them to handle 2 or 3 constituencies, and a lot of them are handling 2 constituencies because there's a shortage of the managers at the constituency level. And therefore, we also need to look at that so that we can hire, or some of those who failed, those who are good, be brought on board. I also want to say there were very many bad posts in those managers, and some of them kept on being shifted from constituency to constituency. In fact, I remember one time, one who disorganized a member of parliament and misused the funds, faced the wrath of the people, and was killed by a mob in one of the constituencies in the country. And an inquiry followed in the courts, and it has never been known who was the killer of this particular manager. And even other managers also took advantage of the absence of the member of parliament on his oversight role when he is debating here, and did tricky things in 1 or 2, 3 constituencies. The members of parliament in those particular constituencies found themselves charged in court for misappropriation of the CDF funds, even when they are not directly involved, Mr. Speaker. So we want to make a bigger success of this wonderful fund, and this fund which is serving Kenyans. It should even be copied by the counties, the way we do our public participation, the way we deliver immediately, the way when there is an emergency, a school roof is taken off, is blown off by wind, and within a week, children are not being rained on. The member of parliament and their teams take action, and that school is brought back to normalcy. And this is a great story of success of the national government CDF. I support, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Honorable Wetangula Wanyonyi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me a chance also. I've been waiting patiently, but at least you have seen. Mr. Speaker, thank you, and I want to congratulate the committee for this report. Mr. Speaker, I personally appeared before this committee. I think there are some elements in when they are looking. I don't know how far back they can look at the performance of CDF, because at one time the auditors raised queries of things that happened long time ago. And then you, as the current member of parliament, you become fixed. Like you look like you are the one who has committed those errors, yet they were done long before even you became a member of parliament. A case in point, Mr. Speaker, in my constituency, there was something that happened in 2009, before I became a member of parliament. In fact, 2007, 2009. And even that area where the auditor was talking about is no longer falls in Westlands, is in a different constituency altogether. So the members of public, they read some of these things and they look at the current leadership as taking responsibility. But Mr. Speaker, we know the CDF has performed very well, has done very well, has improved lives, has brought a lot of development close to the people. I can speak, Mr. Speaker, with a lot of pride, because I know that we have shown that money allocated to projects within the constituencies have done projects that are feasible, have done things that, Mr. Speaker, somebody can walk around and see what the Constituency Development Fund has done. And this, I believe that if the county governments can look at what CDF is doing with the little money, yet the county governments, we are allocating some of the counties billions of shillings. And when you go there, I was recently in my home county and I saw the only thing I could see is some sheds constructed, which even in areas where there are no vehicles, where there are no people there, you just see a shed still running into 2017, 2018 budget. We have not yet even into the 2018, 2019 budget, and yet we are already halfway of the financial year. And we believe that this will be improved, and then we can get the funds so that we can implement projects quickly. Mr. Speaker, the other thing is that there are stalled projects. You know, there was no transition when we, some of the functions were devolved to the counties. Mr. Speaker, the case in point, I remember we did the construction of a youth polytechnic in my constituency, and then it was devolved. And then we could not allocate more money to finish it. So the county government did not take over from where we left. So that project, Mr. Speaker, when you look at it, it looks like the CDF did not do and completed that part, that project. But I believe that if we had a transition, how we could transit from a project started by the CDF so that we can complete the projects that were begun by the CDF funds and then hand over completed projects to the counties. I think it will be better, and it will show even a good image, rather than leaving a project halfway done and then it stalls and nobody's caring about it. I think that's one area that we need to relook into, Mr. Speaker. And many other things that CDF used to do and are no longer falls under the CDF, but still, you know, we have not, it has not been understood which is the area that CDF covers and which area is not. I think the CDF board should also do maybe some civic education to show what are the functions of the CDF. We have done it at our level, but sometimes it's not good enough. But we believe it can be done, that members of public are made aware what CDF can do and what CDF cannot do. The other thing, Mr. Speaker, the dynamics in Nairobi and other constituencies outside Nairobi, Mr. Speaker, are totally different. We experience a lot of disasters in Nairobi, and the auditors have put it very strictly that funds cannot be allocated directly to affected individuals. They have to find a way of how to do it. And this is what the law says, and this one is actually becoming a really issue, because we experience these fires almost every other day, and the only way you have to go and salvage or try to help, either it's a school or people in an informal settlement, Mr. Speaker, you have to allocate funds, and when you do that, the auditors come asking questions about it, and we need to look into it. How do we deal with it within an urban area where these things are happening, Mr. Speaker? And the other thing, Mr. Speaker, about bursaries, I think the money for bursaries will never be enough. We just need, I don't know, we just need to look, how do we increase this bursary fund so that it can reach as many people as possible, because there are so many parents that look takes responsibility. You are the one who is told that you have done this, you have done that. Yet there are people who are doing those things, Mr. Speaker. So our role is oversighting and making sure that those projects are properly implemented. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, thank you for the chance to give me to have contributed this report. Thank you.
Should you have now Honorable Shimo Githinji?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that opportunity also to contribute to this important motion. Mr. Speaker, firstly, I'm personally impressed by the work that has been done by the Special Funds Committee. In fact, this is a very new committee in Parliament, and this is a committee that has been operating without any precedent. And having covered the entire Nairobi and being able to bring a report to this Parliament, it's a good work and towards the right direction. So under the leadership of Honorable Kaduri Moronge, congratulations and keep up. Please move to the other parts of the country, and we hope going forward we will be able also to receive audited reports from our constituencies so that we can see how they have been performing, where they've been failing, where they've been performing well, so that we can also be able to tell our committees led by the fund managers also to make improvements where necessary. Firstly, I will also comment about the CDF because the report is about the CDF within Nairobi. And I must say that this is a fund that is very well structured. And I believe if all the other government monies going even to the counties were also structured in the way that that money must be used, then I think we would not be having cases of corruption, as we are hearing in some areas at the county levels, even at the national level. If the government money can be structured in terms of how much should be used for administration, how much should be used for development and such costs, then I believe we would be taking this country to the next level. And one of the areas that this fund has been very helpful is also on emergency fund that is also provided as about 5%. And this money usually comes in handy, especially when there are disasters. Like now, we are just from very heavy rains, and most of the areas like at Geshogo constituency, we had so many landslides, we had so many toilets sinking, and kids had no places to go and relieve themselves. And this fund, the emergency fund, came in handy, and we were able to do so many toilets, which were of very, very much help to our pupils and the students at the secondary level. The other issue that I would like the committee to be very keen about going forward is about the incomplete projects, because most of the projects were started even more than 10 years ago. And you find that when these projects were started, the amounts that were allocated for these projects cannot match with the amount that is required to complete those projects presently, and due to the inflation and other factors that are coming into play. Distribution of the CDF money to the constituencies, and they should come up with a proposal which Parliament, I know it is in law that all CDF money should be shared equally, but I tend to support one of the honorable members who indicated that though it is equally distributed amongst the constituencies, it is also unfairly distributed. Because you find a constituency with over 200,000 inhabitants getting the same money with a constituency with about 40,000 inhabitants. So you find that the number of students who go to school and the number of students who require these bursaries is also commensurate with the number of the inhabitants or the residents who live in that area. And the number of schools that also require structural development in terms of building the classes and other things is also dependent on the population. And you'll note that, and actually it's a common knowledge. It's common knowledge in the entire country. There have been a lot of influx of many enrollments of students at both at the primary and secondary level, because of the free education, thanks to the Jubilee government. And it has already put a lot of pressure on us MPs through the CDF committees, because every other school is in demand of a laboratory, is in demand of a classroom, is in demand of a dormitory for those who board. And these are the kind of things that are going even beyond the amount that has been allocated for CDF at the constituency level. And many of the people have been arguing there that CDF is getting a lot of money, but if you look at the structure as upon this, or how this money is being shared, you'll see that actually it's even peanuts. The other area that the special fund, in conjunction with the NGCDF committee, needs also to look at is the issue of procurement. I echo the sentiments by Honorable Dr. Oundo that there should be some relaxation so that the organized groups within the constituency level, the youth, women, people with disability, can also benefit from the proceeds of the projects that are being done by the CDF. Because this is a local fund at the constituency level, yet you find because of the many stringent requirements that are required through the procurement process, these groups are not able to meet the requirements. And we need also to have a way of also making them grow, building their capacity, so that in the future they can also be able to meet those requirements. And some of the requirements also demand a lot of money, like getting a letter from the NCA. Right now they are demanding NCA 7. And there's a lot of money that is required before you get that NCA 7 so that you can be able to construct. But once some rules are relaxed at the constituency level, then our youth, women, people with disability, and also not forgetting men who are also willing to do these jobs, we will also be able to also empower our people. The other area that we also need to look at while these funds are being managed is also to look at the ministries. Ministries are also getting money for development. Yet, they are looking at the NGCDF to do everything at the constituency. So we should be able to look at the audit. Actually, this is an area that also needs to be looked at in conjunction with PAC to see how much money has been allocated for development and how much has been able to be trickled to the constituency level. So every the Ministry of Education should also have a certain project that.
Very well, very well. Point made. Honorable Nzioka Kivasu, member for Boni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I first thank the committee chair for good work done. And as they say, Mr. Speaker, sir, behind every successful chair, there is a very strong team behind. Well done, the team. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to say one issue that has come out very clear, which is worrying, is the issue on late issuance of AIEs. This is a technology year or time, and we are wondering why the Treasury disburses the amount to the constituencies, and the NGCDF takes almost 2 weeks or 1 month to release the hard copy of the AIE. We request and we recommend that we have these AIEs issued electronically within 3 days, and I fully support that. If they cannot release a hard copy, then they should be able to release the soft copy within that stipulated time. Mr. Speaker, sir, the underfunding of the projects, we came across 2011, 2012, about 542 million that was not released. 2013, 2014, about 2.1 billion that was not released. 2014, 2015, about 2.3 billion not released. A total of about 4.9 billion. That is still pending within Treasury, which is supposed to be implementing projects within the constituencies. Mr. Speaker, sir, this money is long overdue for the constituencies. And that's why the members of Parliament are talking about stalled projects. Because when we get in after elections, and we find projects that are not completed, then we do our proposals for projects and money comes. Mr. Speaker, sir, many times we go with the new projects. And with this, the recommendation that this gets factored by the Treasury in the supplementary budget of 2018-19, I support fully because we need to implement these projects in time.
Than my own constituency. But it is a much higher but very compact constituency. I think if I were to move around Kibra, I will finish, I'll go through the whole constituency in 1 day. If I wanted to move to Suba North, like I've been trying to do, moving from one village to village, meeting people, Mr. Speaker, it takes me a year. Because our constituency has 7 habitable islands. The farthest, when you go by speedboat, is about 2 hours, and when you are there, you see Uganda, Mr. Speaker. Then there is another island on the far end that from the days of Adam had never got a school, called Sukuru Island. And the topography is so diverse. We have, in my constituency, we have valleys, we have hills, we have islands, we have all manner of things. That moving from one end of the constituency is completely outrageous, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I'll give another example, that when we are giving the members who don't have water bodies, they will, for instance, raise money for a vehicle. Every time I want to go to Mfangano Island, you have to use 2 boats because the water is not like the lake.
I have seen that in the constituency that I oversight, they have given us a bill of good health. They have looked at several aspects of how we handle CDF down there, and they have said that we are good to go. This is what the public needs to know, that we are the eye of the public, that are the first of us overseers of the funds, which if not were it not been for our presence under Article 94 and 95, they probably would have lost everything. Like right now, there is a lot of hemorrhage in national government. CDF, perhaps because we have this iron fist control over it, yes, there are variances and deviations, but it is not as big as the national government is experiencing in several other departments. So members of the public should really understand, and if there is anything, I thought the national papers, the newspapers, these are the kind of things that we want them to write, not you know, to say when who has not spoken in Parliament and who has said what. These are the reports which concerns the issues that they should write, but you will see that now they are bored and they are all yawning. They are unlikely to pick some of these issues and report. And so on. All these things were never passed. We did not know what to do. And so what we did was the funds that we had, we needed to finish the projects as they were. For example, I allowed my funds to go to everything that was being done before me so that they are all completed. But they didn't tell us that when we were giving them the money, they were also giving us the debts. So now we have debts which we didn't work for. And there are contractors who are on our necks looking for money, but those projects did not occur in the physical place which turned to be my constituency. And so I can't pay because I did not know how those things were arrived at. So I think there should be a recommendation to the board that they isolate some of these issues which were affected by the boundaries. That then we understand very well how the assets and the liabilities should apply. Because some of these contractors are also our constituents. So when you tell them you cannot pay them, they don't understand you because you are in the physical space in which they worked. So there is a contradiction there. On bursaries, I think these are the scholarships, electronic transfer of funds. This is a very good idea. If we then could be able to transfer funds electronically instead of the physical writing of checks. I'll tell you something, Mr. Speaker. In Nairobi, we have one provincial, in fact, he's still called a provincial accountant, just one person like this, who signs all the checks for the 17 constituencies, just one person like this. If he is sick, no student can go to school in Nairobi. So you can imagine if he is signing checks 1,500 in my constituency, multiply that by 17, by the time he has done one day, even his signature has changed. You know, your signatures change when you sign a lot of checks at the same time. But you see, now this is a recipe for corruption because he's the main guy there. Everybody must talk to him. Otherwise, if you don't talk to him, he will be out of office every day. I do not know, and those are some of the differences we have with the rural constituencies, because you go to most of the districts, you will find a district accountant who will sign. Here there is one big god.
Some governors are fighting with some MPs. So if a governor is fighting you, they will not do roads in your constituency. So I think this should be expanded so that all these are included in our mandate under NG CDF. I also want to support that disbursement of the money be timely, expanded promptly, so that there are no delays in executing projects, because we are on a 5-year contract. Almost 1.5 years is gone. And if this money does not come quickly, then it means you do nothing. I now even understand why even His Excellency the President was complaining the other day that his ministers are delaying his implementation of projects. Even in my constituency, the fund manager is also delaying me implementation of my projects and also the timely delivery of this money. So I want to agree with these recommendations. I also want to agree with what Honorable Kioni mentioned about.
We should do something, because at the end of it, we are trying to, what we are trying to do as a parliament is that we are trying to tarnish its CV. Tomorrow, maybe if he leaves this place and goes to another department, and now tables his CV that has been the CEO, acting CEO for 7 years. What happens? It will be questionable. So I think we should sit down at the Parliament and do something, at least if the CEO can be confirmed. This will help him stamp his authority in whatever he's going to do. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, sir. I beg to support. Thank you.
Honorable Obala Akinyi.
It's on back. Or is it going on? Is it on back? Mine is on. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Let me check again whether that you're actually on record. It's the one I called out, certainly.
It's me.
Is there contention on who
It's
I called?
Ombaka and Amobara.
Yes.
Those are two different names.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's Ivo
I think it sounds okay now.
Yeah, thank you. Now what's happening? Let me go to this. It's gone off. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I stand to support the report. Mr. Speaker, this is the report for 2013 up to 2015-20. Hello? Yeah, so this is the report for 2013 up to 2016, and I congratulate the committee for doing a good job. Mr. Speaker, this is for Nairobi County, and in my own county, I want to say that I'm not even sure when we will get our report, because as I speak now, the report or the audit that has been started 1 week ago is just a report, it's an audit for 2013, 2014. That is the first audit in the whole constituency that has been started. So as to when it will be audited and completed and submitted to this office, I'm not very sure. So what I would call for as an interested stakeholder is that we get a schedule of when is the most likely time that we expect to get some of these audited reports for our constituencies. By giving out this report, I can assure you that it has sent a good signal to the country that yes, even in Parliament, the audited accounts are publicly submitted and for the public to see what is being done in the constituency. Mr. Speaker, I don't think I'm the only one who will say this here today, but in the constituencies, the only fund that the community or the people know is the CDF. And they expect that the CDF is able to, because when we go home, they expect to see that this and this is happening as you promised. So the disbursement of funds must be timely and given to the constituencies on time so that we can run with the programs that we have planned. Mr. Speaker, not to take too much of the time, and I can see my colleagues are here and they're few and they probably also want to finish, talk and go. I will end and again say that congratulations to the committee and I beg to support once again. Thank you.
Very well. Shall we have Honorable Gugi Duati?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity, also to make my contribution. First of all, I'd like to start by congratulating the committee for a job well done. I wish all committees are working like this. We'll really be proud of this Parliament, and I hope in future we'll see more committees learning from this committee to deliver on time and to deliver a good report. On CDF, I wanted to say is one of the best models we have in this country. Because when it comes to execution of projects, it means that before you execute that particular project, the money is there. I wish the central government was also doing the same. Because in this country, we have many, many projects which have been executed by our central government and which have stalled because of lack of planning. A government body
can give a contractor a job knowing very well there are no funds. But with CDF, we are very lucky. When you're executing a project, you must make provision for that money. The other good thing about CDF is that those jobs are executed by our local people. We use local materials. When it comes to the central government, we have seen huge contracts which are being given to Chinese, new colleges, we have polytechnics, where our youths are refusing to join. Because they have realized most of the money which the government is using is not going to our local people. That money is going out towards benefiting Chinese. You find in the new colleges which the government has opened, the new TVETs, the government is saying they have 500 vacancies, but the uptake is only 25,000. It's because our youth can see the government is not ready to assist them. So I would urge the Ministry of Finance to see what they can do. Because with the 290 constituencies, it means that that money can be spread across this country. On fund managers, most of the ones we have, they are not well trained. And I would urge the CDF board to do something. Accounting skills are very poor. When it comes to the execution of the works, I would urge CDF also to use the facilities at the Ministry of Infrastructure, where we have standard drawings, so they can borrow those standard drawings. They can, or for schools, there are standard drawings for police posts, so that when it comes to the execution of jobs on the ground, we don't have to face problems. I know CDF allows for employment of a clerk of works, but the amount provided is very little. And a clerk of works, if you are to use about 50 million, a clerk of works is a very important person. And I would say it's a high time CDF board assists us to employ qualified clerk of works. And I know with qualified clerk of works, they can be trained very well to provide accounting services. You don't need to be an accountant. I think what we need is somebody who is trained in technical skills to help us in executing those projects. When it comes to the board, I've seen when it comes to the disbursement of money, it is really delaying. Like my constituency, the funds for the last quarter, we received it very late. And we have already advertised for those jobs. I would urge the board to look at, and Treasury to work together so that these funds can be released on time to assist us in timely delivery of projects. Because even when you delay release of funds, cost of materials, cost of labor is also going up. So that you find where you have to do a class for 1 million. When you release it late, it means that you'll execute that class at 1.2 million. And that is where you're finding Kenyans sometimes complaining that we are doing shoddy work. But sometimes it's not the fund manager to blame. It is normally the money being released late. So I would urge the board to work very closely to see that those funds are released on time. When it comes to the visibility of CDF projects in the constituency, there is no doubt that CDF projects are the most visible. Personally, I've not seen in my constituency what the national government is doing. When it comes to the county, I'm here to see. So that I want to say it is a high time that amount was increased. When it comes to the board, I want to urge whoever is responsible in the appointment of the boards to do it quite fast. We cannot have such an important organization without a board to manage his affairs. CEO, let's confirm that great person. He's a great man who knows his work. There is no need of having such a person acting for 7 years. Let's confirm his appointment, and maybe we'll see more coming from him. Last, because I can see members want to contribute, thank you very much, the committee, for coming up with such a great report. Congratulations. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me that opportunity.
Honorable Dual Obaka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this great report that has come before us. It is an indication that the work that members of Parliament are doing on the ground is audited just like any other, that children are taken to school. The only challenge that I see with CDF when it comes to bursaries is that the money is far too little. When a secondary school is charging 50,000 per year, and CDF can only give 5,000 in that year, then the 45,000 left is supposed to be raised by parents. It is ridiculous because that child will not go to school. While you are spending 5,000 on every child that deserves bursary, the money is like getting lost because the children are not going to school, they're dropping out, they're not being sustained, and they're not completing their education. So it is necessary, as I've heard already been aired here, that we need more money in CDF. That is true. But I also want to take the same opportunity to say,
it is unfair in terms of distribution. CDF has been established quite well for a purpose, for importance, but the issue of fairness, of distribution of resources has not been forthcoming, has not been considered quite well. And that is one of the other things that we really want to be mindful of constituencies like Wajir South that is quite large. One thing that we need to understand that CDF has not been only supporting education sector, but it has been supporting various other sectors. When it comes into emergencies, drought emergencies that we always face in my constituency, Wajir South, we use the emergency fund for that, where our security personnel are also going out there to support our society, to defend our society, to stand up for our society. They require decent housing and decent homes. And therefore, I have started that venture through the support of CDF. And therefore, that is the kind of work CDF does. Emergencies, maternal and child health as well. We also consider those other matters that the counties do not support in various ways, in the ways that they say that there is no sufficient funds for this. CDF covers whatever that is quite critical in that. Therefore, without taking much longer and repeating what my colleagues have said, CDF deserves to remain, CDF deserves to live, CDF deserves to reach the villages, far-flung rural areas in Wajir South as well. And therefore, I support this report. I support the presence, the continuity of CDF. And thank you very much.
Well spoken. The member for... you've done very well. The next is the member for Kitui West. Honorable Idi Nyense.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Let me also hear my views concerning this report and congratulate the committee for the good work done. The people on the ground, as we all agreed, really appreciate the CDF funds because it has made a very big impact on the ground. This one goes to the people directly, especially on bursary funds, and people who would not, or children and students who would not have gone to school have now gone to school, and the people on the ground are very, very happy. We've already talked about late disbursement of the funds, which takes a long time and delays, and this may not capture the importance, especially of the bursaries, because some students are sent home due to lack of school fees. And this is due to the late disbursement of funds. So what was meant to really be bring good results can actually act in the negative way if the funds are not dispersed at the right time. Let me suggest that since, like from where I come from, Kitui West constituency, we have 176 schools. That is both primary and secondary public schools. And then there are other constituencies where the schools, as we've also learned, where you might even have only 4 public schools. Let me suggest that, give this suggestion that the allocation should actually be based on the number of schools and also on other considerations, and depending on where the constituency is located. Let me say, congratulate also the board and also the the committee for, through the CDF, infrastructure in public schools has really improved. And the schools are looking very good. The chief's offices are looking very good. So this is due to the good disbursement of funds, the CDF funds. But there are some projects which had been started earlier before CDF was restricted to only security and education. And some of these projects have not, have actually stored, like in my case.
Of the members of parliament, not the CDF fund manager, not the chair of the committee, but the member of parliament. And that really, I think, contributed to the high attrition rate of 70%, where many of them ended up losing their seats because the perception given to the public was that these are corrupt citizens. And that's like almost over 90% of Kenyan members of parliament. So I think it's important that as we do these audits, we be careful what we send out there. I want to point out like some queries I saw from my own constituency. Questions to do with a police post that was constructed, and the query was, why is it not functional? Yet, you know, members of parliament are not the ones that provide the police. That is National Police Service responsibility. So members of parliament can put up at the request of the public.
Have been with us for since 2:30. So I want to donate a minute each to the following members. Honorable member for Wundanyi, 1 minute. Honorable member for Moro constituency, 1 minute. Honorable member for Isamis, 1 minute. Honorable member for Isiolo North, 1 minute. And my neighbor here, the member for Nyeri County constituency, also half a minute.
Chairman, I have a minute for member for Nyeri. Even by the time she introduced, of course, it's your right. If you say I have a minute, even if she stands and bows, of course, in Parliament, we also appreciate that. So you've donated to your time of reply. I'll be able, maybe I can still donate because I've seen the members who have stayed here for long. And congratulations, members. We are really appreciating what you are doing in the House, staying up to 7 p.m. Kenyans should know what the members of parliament do and are doing. Of course, I've taken note of your interest, but of course, as pertains the procedures of the House, this would have happened only if the debate was closed officially, if there was no request. But since I have requests, I must admit that I have 6 requests. Honorable Chair, if you could take a few minutes, like just for reply, because the whole matter has been talked about, I'll use my discretion and maybe I'll help you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this has been a very, very good report for this House, and I wanted to really thank the members who have contributed so far. I think more than 30 honorable members, and mostly, actually, the Speaker of this National Assembly, his office of the clerk, for their wisdom to come up with this committee, Special Funds Accounts Committee, which is doing its first term this year. So, Madam Speaker.
Chair, I was expecting you to pronounce something, but you know, again, you had already expressed.
Sorry, maybe I did not get you right,
but since
Madam
you went
Speaker.
straight to your reply,
because
allow me use my discretion.
Okay.
Allow me use the Speaker's discretion, understanding order number 1, because, of course, the chair had expressed some interest. That is not guiding me. I'm guided by standing order number 1. And since I can see the time and having appreciated, allow me, before you reply, give 2 or 3 members, just one minute, just to record their appreciation. The Honorable Member for Wundanyi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I have a minute, so I really prepared to speak on this matter, but that my colleagues have spoken very strongly on a number of matters. I'll just speak about 2 things. One is to say that indeed CDF is transforming lives back in the villages, and I know even in this town, in this city. We have homes, Madam Speaker, that have never been to secondary schools in this country. And through CDF, we are seeing students in these homes, my children in these homes getting to secondary school and finishing their Form 4. Madam Speaker, I would also want to speak quickly around the issue of oversight committees. Madam Speaker, it has been, we are given mandate as oversight or the patrons of this CDF to appoint 4 people as oversight committee members. However, they get only 2% of the monetary and evaluation amount. Like for instance, last financial year, they only had 60,000 for the whole year. Madam Speaker, this is something that the board and the CDF committee needs to look at and review that if oversight is given its space. Lastly, Madam Speaker, is confirmation of the board, the CEO. Honestly, 7 years is a lot of time. Let the CEO be confirmed so that the board can have a substantive CEO. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Member for Molo, a minute, please, before I call upon the mover to reply. Yes.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And I'd like to congratulate the committee for the perfect well done. And especially I'd like to congratulate the chair. I sit in the Public Accounts Committee, and on several occasions we've had a chance to interact, especially with the chair, and I can tell the Special Funds Committee, they are a very able chair. Madam Chair, I only have one contribution to make, and I'll use the Adams principle. I'll use Adam Smith principle on taxation.
Marginalized communities. Since the introduction of the CDF, and more so the devolution, that narrative is no more there, because we have actually seen the importance, the role the CDF is actually playing within our constituencies. For instance, Madam Speaker, my constituency could be the largest in the country. It actually it measures 65,000 square kilometers. You can imagine, Madam Speaker, that money, CDF, is the only resource that is actually seen to be doing something on the ground. And Madam Speaker, you will actually agree with me. Currently, we are only disbursed with around 100 million shillings, or 70 to 80 to a bracket of 80 to 100 million shillings. That money is not enough. It is better if this House or the CDF committee sits down and actually increase this figure, because this is the only money that touches the lives of common Mwananchi. With that few remarks, Madam Speaker, due to the interest of time, I thank you so much, and I support.
Thank you very much, the member for Lysamis, that are still at the Speaker's discretion. The member for Sierra North, a minute, please. You have been here intending to speak. If the member for Moro didn't raise it. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also support the report. Whatever findings that has been established for Nairobi counties actually applies to all the other counties. From the 1 year that we have been in the office oversighting these funds, whatever recommendation they have come up with is very appropriate, especially touching on the governance and the acting CEO. The board, none of the independent board members are in place, and that is a very, very serious governance issue. And Madam Speaker, CDF, as has been said, is the only fund which is taking care of education and security, 2 key sectors. And therefore, it is important that the committee considers through probably
10 seconds.
Thank you very much. Probably coming up with the change in the existing act so that we can increase the percentage of CDF, so that we can have more money for education and security. Thank you.
And the last one from my discretion is a member for Nyeri County. You are given a minute. Please do have a minute. 1 minute. It's not at the chairman's, but at my discretion. Yes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I just want to commend my friend, Honorable Kathuri, the chair, and the committee. They've done a good job. And I would also like to say, like in Nyeri County, we are really, really appreciating what CADF money is doing for our people. So I want to give them a proud for the good work they are doing. And I would also urge the government at least to confirm the CEO, because 7 years, it's a long time, and he's still doing his work. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
And please allow our members, of course, I was eating on the time, of course not on the time because they had expressed interest. Chairman, please use your maybe 5 to 6 minutes just to do your reply. Give the chairperson the mic. You're giving the wrong ones. Which is your unit? Chairman, you do not have your card. Yes, he has. The member for South Imenti.
I have the card.
You have, Chairman. There you go.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker,
choose the other microphone, the one that is ahead.
I really want to thank the members of this House who have to this report, and more so to the members of my committee who really worked tirelessly day and night, burning midnight oil to make sure that we produce this important report. This report, Madam Speaker, as many colleagues have said, is composed of 51 reports because we have done 3 financial years since 2013 to 2016. So these are 51 audited accounts or reports. Madam Speaker, you serve in PAC and you know what a financial year means. Therefore, I also wanted to state that the members have expressed themselves in several concerns that I've picked. Number one is about how NGCDF money is shared between the constituencies or amongst the constituencies. And therefore, I will pick with my colleague, Honorable Mokamole, who chairs the NGCDF committee, to see what registration, some amendments to the NGCDF Act 2015, so that we can have a discussion on the sharing of this money. And then also, we should still bring amendments or some regulations on how to make effective the oversight committees, which are in the law, but they are not on the ground to provide oversight. Actually, to help the Member of Parliament, because after this report, it is now very open indeed to other Kenyans that the members of Parliament only provide oversight to the NGCDF money, which goes to the constituency. And during all these sessions we held in these 17 constituencies, our concern was with the fund account manager, who actually are the AIE holders, authority to incur expenditure. So those are the people who appear before the committee to answer their audit queries. Therefore, I think it is very clear now. And also, another important thing is that Kenyans know, even this money going to the constituencies, which is arranged, it is for the members of Parliament. Kenyans now are very clear. It is very clear in their mind that even members of Parliament don't fear to be audited. Or the constituencies they serve, they have no fear at all. Everything is open. And I want to assure members, in the next 1 year, we want to make sure that we bring reports for all the 47 counties that we have. Already we are done with Nairobi. Kisumu County will be finishing next week. Therefore, I want to promise the other members of the other counties that also their reports will be in this house in due course. Madam Speaker, the government, I think, have warned us clearly this afternoon because of the bond. The NGCDF bond is not operational. If the bond is not operational, there is nobody there to constitute forums, maybe to vet or to employ or to commission.
Honorable Katuri, you have 2 minutes. If you want to finish your reply today, but if you're not willing to do it, you can still do it in the next sitting. So please just budget.
Therefore, Madam Speaker, I think the government should now listen to this House and confirm the acting CEO so that that bond can be very effective. Madam Speaker, a lot has been discussed, and this is not the end of the reports. There will be more reports coming to this House, and therefore, because we have interacted with this report nicely for those 3 sessions, I want now to move that this House adopts the second report of the Special Funds Accounts Committee on audited financial statements for the National Government Constituencies Development Fund for constituencies.
least go into record that you're not moving. You beg to reply.
Oh, I beg to, sorry, Madam Speaker, I beg to reply.
You beg to reply rightly and procedurally. Thank you, the honourable member, for replying procedurally. Honourable members, being guided by our standing orders and the guidelines for conducting business in the House, honourable members, the report on the audited financial statements for the National Government Constituencies Development Fund for the constituencies in Nairobi City Council, motion number 9 in today's order paper. We'll defer the putting of the question to the next appropriate time, as it will be slotted in our order paper. And members, other members, again, being guided by the procedures and rules of the House, the time being 7 p.m., this House stands adjourned till the Tuesday, 23rd October, 2018 at 2:30 p.m. I thank you all.